church benches and into the trenches. Let's make a righteous ruckus.
Hey, welcome to the Righteous Ruckus podcast. This episode, I think this is episode 100. We've broken into triple digits with this episode. I need to get you remember the old, well, some of you may not, the old Wilt Chamberlain when he had 100 points in one game. It was kind of before there was on TV and everything, and he just kind of held up this piece of notebook paper that said 100. So if this is the case, which I think it is, I think it's 100, then pat yourself on the back for listening for 100 episodes. If you haven't been with us the whole time, we welcome you still. So today I want to talk about the jewels of Jerusalem, the jewels of Jerusalem. I got to give credit to the Unashamed podcast, with the Robertsons, the Duck Dynasty crew. Several of those guys are on that podcast. And it's a big podcast in the Christian realms, especially. It's one of the, if not the biggest. And anyway, I listen to it on every now and then. I kind of go to spurts to get into it, and sometimes I kind of drift away into other stuff and I come back to it. But anyway, Jace Robertson, recently they had an episode where they talked about this video about this kind of scientific explanation of these jewels of Revelation 21. And it was very, very interesting stuff. If you listen to the Unashamed podcast, then you may have already heard what I'm talking about. If not, it was really cool. When I heard it, I was like, wow, that's so interesting. So we're going to start off in Isaiah. Where are we at? Isaiah 54. Isaiah 54, right? We're going to start Old Testament with the prophet Isaiah. In Isaiah 54, verse 11, listen to this. O you afflicted one, this is talking about Israel, tossed with tempest and not comforted. Behold, I will lay your stones with colorful gems and lay your foundations with sapphires. I will make your pinnacles of rubies, your gates of crystal, and your walls of precious stones. He's talking about in the future. This is a future promise to Israel, right? To the people of Israel. And it's really interesting when you jump forward now to Revelation chapter 21. And we're going to cover some of this, talk about the New Jerusalem, but hang in there. All right. Hang in there. I'm going to talk about these specific gems. Now, if you notice in Isaiah 54, it used rubies. Yeah, we'll make your pinnacles of rubies. However, when you look at the lexicon there and then the translation, it says possibly rubies, right? So they kind of interjected rubies in the translation. It could be this other thing that they talk about in Revelation 21. So the New Jerusalem, right? Let's start. I'm gonna start in verse 14. Okay, so in verse 14, it's Revelation 21, verse 14. Okay, so John sees this New Jerusalem coming down to the new heaven and the new earth, right? He comes down there, and actually, well, let's back up. Let's just start in verse 9 and read. It's such a cool excerpt here. Let's talk about this. So, in verse 9, Revelation 21, verse 9, then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and talked with me, saying, come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. In other words, the church, right? And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her light, focus on light here, was like the most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. Notice some of these words are hearkening back to that promise in Isaiah 54. Also, she had a great and high wall with 12 gates and 12 angels at the gates, and the names written on them, which are the names of the 12 tribes children of Israel. So the 12 tribes. 3 gates on the east, 3 on the north, 3 on the south, 3 on the west. Now, this is verse 14 now. Now the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he who talked with me had a gold rod, measured the city, its gates and its wall. The city laid out as a square, its length and as its great as its breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. Its length, its breadth, and its height are equal. So it's a big cube, right? Then he measured its wall, 140 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of an angel. The construction of its wall, here's where it really gets interesting, guys. The construction of its wall was of jasper, and the city was pure gold like clear glass. So, pure gold, there's a certain thing like pure gold. It said the city was pure gold, but then like clear glass. So it's some sort of interesting gold there. The foundations, here, let's pay attention to this. The foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardis, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprase, the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. The 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each individual gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold like transparent glass. So we're going to focus there starting in 19 and 20. We're going to talk about these stones. Notice the list there. It was jasper, sapphire, chalcedony, emerald, sardonyx, which a lot of people just call onyx, right? The 6th was sardius, which that is what the NIV actually translates that into ruby. And it's not the exact same word as in Isaiah 54, but they translate ruby. All the other translations translated this sardius, chrysolite, beryl, topaz, chrysoprase, jacinth, and amethyst, right? So here is something very interesting about those. This scientist, or scientist-like, right? Biblical scientific explanation. So this is David Pawson, I believe is his name. So what he talks about is how you look at those specific stones, right? Now, granted, what do we call precious? Of course, gold, but as far as precious stones, number 1 would be diamonds. Rubies would be in there. Emerald, which emerald's in that list, but diamonds and rubies would be up there, right? Which there's an argument to be said that that's why they translated that sardius into ruby, because it sounds better, more precious to us, right? More precious to us. And here's the kicker. So when you look at pure light, right? Pure light. I'm not talking about the light that's just bouncing around here, right? The light that's lighting me up. The light that when you turn on the light switch, that light just refracts off all sorts of stuff. When you look at pure light, only within the last generation, 25 years, 30 years, definitely within the last 50 years, have we been able to, develop like lasers where it's just a direct path of light. There's also, you can, like polarized lenses where they filter out a certain amount of light, right? Polarized sunglasses, think of that. Well, if you take a polarized lens and it's polarized in one direction, so only those light waves can get through, and you take another polarized lens and turn it on its side to a right angle to that first, then what you're left with is very small areas where light can actually filter through. And that has to be a direct light. So that's called cross-polarized light. I know there's some scientific terms in here, guys, but think about that, though. The cross-polarized light. Actually, on the Understanding podcast, Jace kind of emphasized that. it's interesting that you talk about cross-pol. Now, of course, it just means it's two things crossing over each other. So this cross-polarized light lets in what they call almost pure light. It's light that's coming directly through, not bouncing off of things. And what they did is they took these 12 stones, and they took some more, these precious stones, and they cut very thin slices of them so that you could look at them under a microscope. And then they illuminated through them this cross-polarized light, this pure light, okay? Remember, think about this pure light. And when you shine this pure light through these, granted, like what I just said, we think of diamonds. Think of when you look at go to the jewelry store, they got special lights and it's on the dark background to make the diamond really shine and sparkle. And it's cut just right to where it refracts a bunch of pretty light. But a lot of these things here, these stones listed in Revelation 21, they're not that special. They're not that beautiful as far as light goes in on Earth, on this day-to-day thing. You get one, you'd be like, it's pretty, but okay, cool. I've seen better, right? However, they took these thin slices to where they could look at it on a microscope. They shine this pure cross-polarized filtered light through it. And these 12 precious stones listed in Revelation 21 are what's called anisotropic. There's isotropic and anisotropic as far as the reflection of light through these materials. Isotropic, it's dull, right? It's basically white light coming in and dull light coming out. They just kind of dissipate the light and make it fade. Okay. The anisotropic takes that same light, an anisotropic material, and splits it into all the colors of the rainbow. Think of a prism, right? Think kind of like a prism. Anyway, what's super interesting is every single one of these, when you shine that pure light through these, then it's amazing. Here, I'm trying to put in, if you're watching on video, I'll put in a picture of what they showed, okay, of these 12 stones. I think it cuts off the names of the bottom ones, but you'll see it's like these most beautiful lights, the spectrum of colors that, is just gorgeous. It's amazing. And then they took that same light and shined it through diamonds, which are isotropic, which show up just plain, right? There's nothing beautiful about it when you shine that pure light through it. Same thing with rubies, which that's what tells me that it's probably rubies in Isaiah 54, and it's probably not rubies, or it's probably not rubies in Isaiah 54, and it's probably not rubies here in Revelation 21, because when the rubies are dull when you shine through it. And there was another gem on that list that they shine through, and it's just dull. It's just gray, right? It's not exciting. It's not beautiful. It's not amazing. It's not immaculate. Here we place such a high value on diamonds and rubies, and they're nothing when you shine pure light through them. They're dull and ugly, to put it frankly. However, these stones that we think far less of, these 12 stones that are used in Revelation 21, are amazing. And so that just tells you he's using these stones, and when you have this light on earth, they're not that big of a deal. But when you have pure light, it's a big deal. Now, here's the thing. Let's look on to Revelation 21, verse 22. But I saw no temple in it. He's talking about the New Jerusalem. I saw no temple in it, For the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. The city had no need of the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God illuminated it. What could that be? Well, let's look here. The Lamb is its light. Jesus, God's perfect light here, shining through the city of these 12 foundations, which are going awesome looking, right? Blowing you away with their beauty because of their intrinsic way they handle light and refract it, and just it's amazing to think this, right? And the nations of those who are saved shall walk in its light, and the kings of the earth bring their glory and honor into it. Man, are you seeing where this is going here? Now let's look back in John chapter 3, verse 18. Let's do 18 through 21. He who believes in him is not, this is words of Jesus, is not condemned, but he who does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God. And this is the condemnation, that the light has come into the world. He's talking about himself. And men loved darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. Think about, the light has come into the world, right? And people are focused on things other than that light, because their deeds were evil. For everyone practicing evil hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his deeds should be exposed. But he who does the truth comes to the light, that his deeds may be clearly seen, that they have been done in God. So Jesus is the light of the world. And Jesus is a pure light. We are not able to see it right now. And this, we're just looking at the light from the sun and artificial lights, like what's going on right here in my studio, which happens to be a home office, right? But it's looking forward. John could have never known that those 12 materials were anisotropic, what they would look like with that pure, filtered, cross-polarized, filtered light, pure light coming through those. He would have never known that. He couldn't have known that. And Isaiah wouldn't have known that when he talks about the foundation with sapphires. I'll make your pinnacles of rubies. And he's talking about I will lay your stones with colorful gems, right? He's looking forward to the promises to Israel. God's promises to Israel. This is what God's promises in the future, which is when you get to heaven, right? Now, another thing is, like I mentioned, and you saw in those pictures if you're watching the video, that those gems, it's like a prism. And so you would have foundations made of all these stones that would be just shooting this beautiful light everywhere because of the pure light from the Lamb, from Jesus, from God, who's the light of this city. And what's incredible is a prism is what? It separates the light into kind of all the colors of the rainbow, right? What is rainbow? Rainbow is a promise. It's God's promise to never flood the earth again. Now, I mentioned we were in Isaiah 54, verse 11 and 12 earlier when we were talking about that. Look, if you have your Bible open or look at it online, look up, that's Isaiah 54, verse 11. Look up to what Isaiah said just before this in Isaiah 54, verse 9. For this is like the waters of Noah to me. For as I have sworn that the waters of Noah would no longer cover the earth, so have I sworn that I would not be angry with you nor rebuke you. He's talking about a rainbow, the promise to Noah, the rainbow, and ties that in a couple verses down with the promise of a future place where he's laying the stones with colorful gems, laying the foundations. And what is those foundations just happen to be when you put pure light through this? They happen to be rainbows, which is a promise. So it just ties back and forth, whichever direction you want to go with this, whether it's the flood, the promise of of Noah's flood, the rainbow of Noah's flood. Is that looking forward to the New Jerusalem in heaven, or is the description of the New Jerusalem in heaven, or I keep saying heaven, it comes down out of heaven onto the new earth, right? So the New Jerusalem in Revelation 21 is that using those stones and that refraction of those stones as a reminder of the promise of Noah. It could go either way there. I'm curious what you guys think. Which direction does that go? And another thing that kind of interests me is some people seem to think that this New Jerusalem, that it's describing the people. I mean, it talks about the bride, right? It talks about the bride. Talked about blah, blah, blah. Come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. Well, that is the church. That's the believers, right? And they're coming down. And it says, and he showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Some people think that it is people coming out of heaven, that the description is the people, but it seems to be clearly talking about a city. So I kind of lean towards it being a city, and could people be in the city that's coming down? Yes, sure, it could. But some people think that has nothing to do with a city, that when it talks about streets of gold, it's talking about people. When it talks about sapphires and crystals and all this stuff, it's talking about people. But it seems like that's a little bit of a conflation. But I'd be curious to what you're thinking, what you think on that, what your take is. However, I want to conclude with this. I'm curious, have you ever heard of anything like that? For one thing, I had no idea about that until I heard it on another podcast, went and watched the video myself. And it's kind of incredible that the Holy Spirit, it had to be Holy Spirit led, Isaiah 54, Revelation 21, the stones and talking about the promise, and then those stones of Revelation 21 actually being and behaving that way. And that turns out that the light that they give off in pure light is far more beautiful than the stones like diamond and rubies that we think of as beautiful and more beautiful than that list, right? It's almost like God knew what he was doing when he wrote that stuff down, when he had John write down that stuff in Revelation. It's almost like maybe it is divinely inspired. You know what I mean? Anyway, I just thought it was just a cool insight there, and I wanted to share that with y'all. And I hope this has given you some insight and laid the foundation for the triple digits. Like I said, crossing over the 100th episode threshold. If you've never really looked into podcasting, that is a big milestone, especially for a weekly podcast, right? This is once a week. So if you think about 52 weeks in a year, you're looking at a couple years worth of material, and that we've been covering for a couple years now, it's exciting. And I'm looking forward to 200, 300 and on. We'll see what the future holds. Who knows, Lord willing, we'll keep moving forward with this. But I thought it was cool to hit 100, and I wanted to share that with you about these stones today. And just a reminder that according to that scientific test, diamonds are worthless. Diamonds are worthless. So think about that. All right, have a blessed day.